would that mean for you? It means you couldn't read stop signs, labels in the grocery store, couldn't write, so you couldn't sign your name. You wouldn't be able to handle money. It could impact your life in so many ways. And it impacts other people's lives in this country, hundreds and thousands of people's lives every single day. That's illiteracy. Dictionary.com defines illiteracy as the inability to read or write. And illiteracy can play a huge role in the way that you interact in your daily life. People who are illiterate become socially hermited in their own homes. They're, number one, unable to drive because they can't pass a driving test, or they can't read stop signs or any sort of road sign. And number two, they become socially hermited because they are embarrassed. It is a very embarrassing thing to not be able to read or write. I'm covering the topic of illiteracy and the role of a reading specialist in that problem because I am passionate about reading and I am passionate about overcoming illiteracy. I'm actually studying for my Master's of Art in Teaching right now at Liberty University, and I'm doing that because I'm passionate about reading and teaching children how to read. My focus is in elementary education, and my long-term goal is to obtain a certification as a reading specialist. I did a lot of research for this speech, and several journals that I looked through was the NERA journal, the Literary Research and Instruction Journal, the Reading Teacher Journal, and the textbook for this course, Dr. Albans created for Connection. Basically, what this speech is going to do is inform you a little bit about illiteracy and about the reading specialist's role in combating illiteracy, and then also how reading specialists serve as a platform for God's values of compassion and impartiality. Basically, reading specialists play a critical role in combating illiteracy. I did read an article by Kennedy and Shield that followed a teacher. Her name was Mary, in a very poor community in Ireland. And what they did was they followed her for 2 years. At the beginning, she had no tools in combating illiteracy. And by the end of the 2 years, she had gone through a continuing education course to equip her with the tools that a reading specialist has in order to help her students who are struggling. And the results were remarkable. On a standardized test, their scores went from an 82 to a 98 within 6 months. So just equipping our teachers with the tools that they need, especially those poor communities who can't afford to hire a specific reading specialist for their school, by equipping the teachers that are there now with the necessary tools to become reading specialists within their own classrooms, they have the ability to impact their students on a daily basis. And also, the Kennedy and Shield study followed the importance of the family in combating illiteracy. The first teacher that your child will encounter is yourself, you as the parent. It's very important that the parents are teaching and promoting reading within their own homes and teaching the passion for reading within their own homes. So instead of having your child watch TV, why not have them pick up a book? Second point is reading specialists must serve as leaders. They must be the role models that teachers follow. It's important that they are able to go into the classroom and teach teachers how to teach reading. It is an art form. It's not something that is naturally picked up on, and it's not something that is gone to in super depth when you are actually getting just your regular teaching license. So the reading specialist can go in the classroom and give the teachers ideas, strategies, and different ways to teach reading. They also are models of behaviors. Not only do they teach the teachers how to teach reading, but they also go in and actually do the teaching so that the teacher can watch them and they can be a role model for the teacher. Also, the reading specialists can impact administrators in the community surrounding them. They can be supportive of the administrators in any sort of reading initiative they might have, and also they support the community because they impact every single person that they touch. So if they're working with administrators and teachers and children, all those people are part of that community. So they are reaching out, and it's almost like a spider web effect. The most important thing is that they use their specialization as a leadership role. They must be the leaders in the fight against illiteracy within their own community. So how does this all come together? How does a reading specialist serve God's values of compassion and impartiality? Well, first, Alvin describes God's value of compassion for others to include the poor and the oppressed, the uneducated, and children. And it's very important. God, through Christ, his son, Jesus was one of the greatest teachers ever in our entire history, and he had compassion for others. He loved children. He loved everyone, and he was willing to sit down and talk to somebody no matter what their socioeconomic level was, and no matter what their status was as far as socially. Second thing is Albin describes God's value of impartiality as loathing against prejudice against the poor. He hated prejudice against the poor. He hates when we are prejudiced against somebody. So a teacher can be impartial. They don't look at the student's socioeconomic level. They just focus on the student and what is in front of them. Are they struggling to read? And they deal with that and help that child no matter what. Basically, in closing, it's important to remember that the reading specialist can have a significant impact on illiteracy and the fight against it. Now, kind of go back a little bit. Close your eyes again and imagine not being able to read God's Word, the Bible. That would be, personally for me, a devastating thing. But when you're illiterate, you are not able to read and you're not able to write. So you're not able to read God's Word and meditate on God's Word and use God's Word to be a path for you in your life. We can encourage our reading specialists by helping them and by equipping them with the necessary tools and support mechanisms that they need to go into the schools and fight illiteracy. And it's very important that we help them. Our schools will get the help they so desperately need, our teachers will get the help they so desperately need, and our students will get the help they so desperately need. And I found an interesting quote in one of my articles, and it said, we may be able to close the reading achievement gap for all of our learners once and for all in the 21st century. And wouldn't that be so exciting if everyone in this world